welcome to Legalese. I'm Ernie Hyde, your host. Legalese is brought to you by the Northern Middlesex Bar Association on a monthly basis. And this is a show of first and lasts. The first, let me introduce you to Lori Bajoyan. And Lori is an attorney who has an office both in Littleton, Mass. and in Watertown, and she specializes in tax law.
I do.
So she's one who voiced an interest in doing this show to begin with on scams because the IRS is involved in some of them at times, and she's heard them all. And so we're going to go through that in a minute. The last, as I mentioned, the first and last, this is going to be my last show as host. In the future, you're going to be seeing Chris Lilly, and you've seen him on the show before. Chris has been with the Bar Association for almost like ever, and I hope he doesn't hear this show and that I said that. But at any rate, he's been around for a while, and he's hosted a number of these shows in the past, so he will be taking over as host. And I am retiring from the practice of law, and as a result of that, I will be watching the show as opposed to participating, at least on camera.
Even though we have tried to convince Ernie that he still needs to be doing this show because he is the face of Legalese.
Yeah, well, we're going to move on from that. And we're going to talk about scams. And so, Laurie, tell us what is your perception of a scam?
My perception of a scam, from everything that I have seen of late, is anything that is any kind of deceptive practice that is intended to get someone to do something that they would not normally do. It's basically perpetrating a fraud on someone, lying to them with respect to their own personal business or with respect to their business, their occupation, whatever else. Mm-hmm. And it impacts everybody. It is not people who are scammers, and we see them all the time on email. Everyone knows the Nigerian scam as to here you've won the lottery. Mm-hmm. And we all know that. And there are also those little stories we hear online, and everyone knows the websites to go to see if it's a true fact or fiction.
Right.
But these scams have become a little bit more intricate and more dangerous. And unfortunately, they are beginning to impact everyone, not just the elderly, not just someone who may be disabled or not clear on certain words or techniques that different credit organizations use. Mm-hmm. So this is opening up a huge area for people to be stealing so much money from individuals, coming and stealing their property just as well as their money.
Yep. And as you mentioned, they are becoming very good at this. Scammers have been practicing, especially on the internet, for an awful long time, and they've taken that further steps to the telephone and direct mail and so on and so forth. So yeah, there is no such thing as a person too young or too old in these things?
Oh.
Pretty much right?
Not at all, especially the younger ones they get. Everyone should have heard of the term catfishing with regard to dating. But dating services now that are up, there are people who are getting scammed through dating services. They'll meet someone, it's not the person they think they're talking to, and the next thing you know, you're being asked to send them money for, getting them back to the United States or helping them out of a rough situation.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of those too because there's plenty of them to talk about. Let's talk about some of the telephone scams. In particular, I know you have many stories on the IRS, and that's an important one because when someone gets a phone call and they hear IRS on the other end of that line, it's sort of like hearing this is the local police department or the state police department or the FBI. Very serious issues typically are involved. So, yeah, give us some background on the IRS
Background
ones.
on that is, number one, it's nationwide. It is nationwide. I was a victim of the IRS scam. I got a phone call. And what these scammers do is they will call you and they will identify themselves as calling from the IRS, in particular the Criminal Investigation Bureau of the IRS. And they are telling you that you are being investigated and that perhaps you need to have an attorney. And the first thing that I did when I got the call was ask for the person's name so I could write it down and ask for his ID number. Anybody calling from the IRS or any state agency has an ID number. And then I asked for a phone number to return the call. Now they're smart because the phone number they give you will direct you right back to them. And what they will do is start to tell you that there's a criminal investigation with regard to your tax returns. And if you do not pay them right then and there, that the local or state or even FBI will be coming to your door to discuss things with you. Mm-hmm. And what lots of people don't realize is the IRS will never phone you and the IRS will never send you an email. Most federal organizations will not do any of those things requesting information. And what's interesting is when I informed the person that I was an attorney, they hung up the phone pretty quick.
You wonder why that happened.
Oh. The other thing that I've heard too is other people have told me that when they get a phone call from the IRS, this scammer, they'll hang up the phone and within half an hour they will receive a phone call from someone claiming to be the police who basically are telling them they're coming to arrest them. And if you're a young person or even an older person, first thing you do is, how do I get out of this? I don't know what to do. And what I find interesting is these calls are at 6 o'clock in the evening, which anybody knows, federal workers, they're gone by 4:30. So that's one thing to do. The other thing to do is once you get a phone call like this, never give any information, any personal information to them, but also to call the local Attorney General's office. And there's also a number for the Secretary of the Inspector General that you can call them and you can report this. I've had firemen of Littleton and Air come in a panic thinking they're being audited, something has happened, and it really is a scam. And unfortunately, lots of people go online to try a Google to see if it's true or if it's not true, and they can't seem to locate the correct website to tell them that it is. But the phone number, it sounds like a real life phone number, an 800 number. It's not. So you have to be very, very careful with regard to these individuals who are calling.
And that's true not only of the IRS in terms of not emailing you and not phoning you. That's true in many cases for other companies like banks, insurance companies, financial management companies, and so on and so forth. You're going to know that they know who you are because they're going to tell you who you are.
Oh, of course.
And if anybody wants to know something from you, you ought to be questioning it. You shouldn't be answering the question. You should be questioning whether this is legit.
Well, my first line of attack in any of these, can I get a phone number to call you back? And what you will find is the way they get around that is, oh, I only have an outgoing telephone.
Right.
I can't receive incoming calls. Well, then I won't call you back because you can't be legitimate. If you do that. Or give me a phone number so I can speak to a real live person that I know I'm calling. The other thing too, you think you're calling the United States and half the time you're calling another country.
Yeah, the accents typically give a lot of it
True.
away too. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had a phone scam the other day at the office that was allegedly from Microsoft support that told me that they discovered in the last 24 hours that there were things being downloaded to Windows machines, and they wanted me, if I was in front of my computer, which of course I was, they wanted me to go into my computer and enter some codes for them so they could take a look to see if I had received any of these. And I said, "Where are you calling from?" Click. So that was the end of that phone conversation.
But it's true, but people, especially people who aren't computer savvy,
Yeah, right, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
people who-
They hear Microsoft, they think it's legitimate.
exactly, and they think, and usually it's somebody who's elderly, who may just have a computer for purposes of Facebook or Skyping their families who are someplace, and they think, oh my goodness, this is real. Half the time they could be answering the call and they could have an Apple machine and not know that it's Apple and
right.
not Microsoft.
They're guessing, yeah, yeah. The other thing that people should be aware of is when you go on the internet and you start to download things, especially where it's free. By the way, there's very few things on the internet that are free. So you should be aware of that. But if you're going to start downloading things, they're always going to be asking you for your email address and probably a whole lot more. Once you give them that email address, they're going to send you something. And they're going to hope that you respond to that, because if you do, then they know it's a legitimate email address. And they can also sell that address. And so the more times they sell it, the more junk mail you get, and on and on and on it goes. So be very careful who you give your email address out to. Be very careful who you give anything in terms of account numbers, social security numbers, dates of birth, anything along that line, because they can all be used to put you together.
Oh, of course, and a lot of people use, that's the other side of it, is a lot of people use as passwords things that they'll remember, like birthdays and parts of their social security number or telephone numbers.
Yep.
And the thing is that that's why we constantly are bombarded with news saying, change your password, something has been hacked. Another thing that I get, and I just got this a while back, but from an email that I recognize, and there'll be just a link in it
Right.
to click the link.
Yep.
If you get something like that, somebody has hacked your friend's email.
Correct.
And you don't click on any links that don't have some kind of explanation around it, because that's another way that they can get in and get access to any of your information, especially if you do banking online and you don't have protective securities on your system, and most people don't.
A lot of people don't.
You know, and even Norton, you know, the Norton security system or other security systems do get hacked. So you have to be very careful with what you do online. And know that when you go on to a website, say to buy something, there is a little click box at the bottom of most of these saying, I want to opt out of you selling my name or my email address because I don't want any more advertisements or any merchandise.
If they're legitimate, they'll opt you out. If they're not,
They won't.
you're going to be sold
Oh, yes.
to someone else. Okay. So I'd like to talk about a couple of email scams that I've received in the last week. Frankly, there are many of them, and there's no way we would have enough time in a half an hour to cover them all. But I'm going to ask that the EasyPass one be put on the screen. George, thank you. This is one, to me, you can see it's to Ernie Hyde, and it's from the EasyPass Service Center. Now, how do they know I have an EasyPass? Well, they don't, but they are guessing, because more and more people are signing up for EasyPass, and as a result of that, they are taking a chance that you happen to be one of them. You can see it's telling me that I'm delinquent. Well, if you know anything about EasyPass, you really can't be delinquent unless you gave a credit card that has expired, and EasyPass is going to let you know that as soon as they find out. But it won't be by sending you an email and asking you to click on invoice to get an invoice of your delinquent charges, because you're not going to have a lot of time to get delinquent charges. So don't click, as Laurie has already said, don't click on all of these highlighted areas on these emails, because they're either one, going to take you to a place you don't want to go, two, they're going to download some sort of malware or virus on your system, or three, they are going to send you into scam land, and they're going to offer you something that you just can't refuse because it's too good. All right? So let's look at another one. Let's look at the Kohl's gift card. And
Well, the other thing on the EasyPass,
Yes.
Ernie, is that if EasyPass was going to contact you and they know who you are, then they are going to provide some kind of identification
Absolutely.
to know that you are who you are, like the last four digits of your EasyPass card, or some kind of identifying number for you
Right.
to know that this is a legitimate email that's coming through. But
Right.
especially, even though it said it came to Ernie Hyde, it did say "Dear Customer."
Yep, right.
So it's not even
Right.
directed
It's
to
a
you.
whole can thing to begin with
Exactly.
down at the bottom. So let's bring up that Kohl's gift card one again. Thanks, George. Now, I want you to notice something on this one. If you look at the from email address, it starts off with Kohl before the @ sign, and that's meaningless. Kohl means nothing. That's someone's name or something's name. It doesn't really indicate to you who is actually sending this or where it's coming from. If you look to the right of the @ sign, you're going to see that it's coming from a place that obviously is not Kohl's. And that should be your first hint that you probably are not getting a legitimate offer from Kohl's. The next thing that you should be looking at is, are they asking you to click on anything? Kohl's wouldn't do that. Kohl's does not send out, nor do any other department stores, send out emails that would require you to click on getting a gift card. Chances are, if you're going to get a gift card, you're going to earn it in some way, and that's a purchase. So all of these highlighted blue areas, don't click on them. They're only going to get you in trouble.
Oh, exactly.
This next one is a great one because not only do the lawyers get them, but people who are not lawyers get them, and they can scare the heck out of someone
Oh,
who's
of
not
course.
a lawyer. This is a notice to appear from a court. And the strange part about the ones that I get seem to be courts in California or some out-of-the-way place that I've
Never
been
been.
to. But at any rate, here's a notice to appear. And down at the bottom, you can see that there's an attachment. They're dying for you to unzip that document onto your computer. And the reason they're doing that is because once you unzip it, they're going to be able to access data on your computer. And they know exactly what data they're trying to access. They know exactly where they're going to go to get that information.
Exactly.
Because Windows, in this particular case, Windows has sort of a structure to it. And so you're going to find certain things in Photos, and you're going to find certain things in My Documents, and so on and so forth. They know that, and that's what they're setting up in that case. The last one is the credit card that they're unable to process. Well, you know what? If somebody's unable to process a credit card or some sort of order that you've given them, they're going to identify more than the last 2 digits of your account number. They're usually going to, as Lori has already pointed out, give you at least 4. And even if it's your Social Security number or if it's your credit card number or whatever, they're going to give you at least 4. And the reason for that is that for a credit card, there's 16 of them. In most cases, there's 16 numbers. So if they're going to guess the other 12, good luck to them, because then they have to also guess your name, exactly how it appears on your card.
Right.
They have to also guess the expiration date, and many times they have to guess the 3-digit code on the back of your card. So if they can guess all of that, they don't need to send you an email, they can just get it. Right?
Correct. Well, the other thing too on that unable to process is if you get one of those, if you have bought something online, most likely if you get one of those unable to process your credit card, it will tell you what you have purchased. It'll say your order for X, Y, or Z
Exactly.
has not been processed because there's a problem with your payment option. And they will usually say payment option, not credit card.
Right. Because
So-
if you gave them a credit card, that's going to be vetted out right then and there.
Oh, exactly.
And before you even get off that website, you're going to know whether it went through or
Whether
not.
it went through or not,
Right.
correct. So
Exactly.
any other email that you get is a scam. It's their way of trying to get you to provide them with the information that they may not be able to get otherwise.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about that.
Let's talk, so I hope those were helpful to you, but let's talk about the scam that you were talking about earlier, the travel scam, where not only could it be someone who you have just met, it could be someone you've known for a lot of years. And then all of a sudden you get this email from them and they're telling you all about the trouble they're in Barnelosa or wherever it is in Spain or Milan, Italy, and I need X amount of cash by tomorrow morning if I'm going to ever get out of here because I'm being held.
Well, it's interesting because most of the places that they tell you that they're at are places that if you know the individual who's sending you that email,
They're not there.
you know that they wouldn't go there to begin with because it's either so totally exotic or someplace that nobody would visit. But it's this email saying that I'm here and I'm stuck, I can't
Desperate.
get out of here, I'm
Desperate,
desperate,
yep.
I've lost my passport, I've lost this, that, or the other thing. And the people that they hit, I've had 3 or 4 of them over the past couple of years that I've received, but I've also heard that they are, emails are coming from grandchildren to grandparents.
And ooh, that's a tough one.
So that's a tough one. So
yeah.
that's one that it is a scam, that it's coming, but grandparents are more readily to provide some kind of payment to get their grandchild home if there's a problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
Versus getting on the phone, calling your grandchild if you can, calling their parents to make sure that they are out of the country. But that's usually the first step. My first step half the time is to respond to the email that I've received, which has my friend's email address on it, and I say very boldly in cap letters, I think your email has been hacked, and stop getting them.
In many cases, you will see if you look at those emails that they are actually not from your friend. Your friend's name is on there, but that return or reply address is not your friend's.
Right, exactly. If you
And
look
that's
to
a
see what
key.
the reply is. And usually if you see, sometimes you'll see a .co.uk.
Yep.
And, you know, guys, UK, first thing I think of, United Kingdom, but you have to be very careful about those things. And so you don't, if you reply and it kicks back that it's not a real life
legitimate address,
email,
yep.
that's fine. But the other protection too is for you to email your friend directly in a new email saying,
Do a forward.
I think you've been hacked.
Yep.
Do a forward to them
Yep.
and let them know, because half the time they have no idea that this has occurred.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many different variations of this. One thing I didn't mention as we were going through those emails, typically depending on what email software you have that you're looking at your email with, if you position your cursor, that is the little arrow on the screen, over the blue area that's highlighted for you to click on, the address of where it's about to go will show at the bottom of your screen. So you can actually look at that address to determine if it's in any way related to the email. And generally it's not. If it was, it probably might not be a scam. But generally it's not. And so don't click on anything. If you're not sure where it came from, if you didn't solicit it, if it's not from someone who you know that and what the message is making sense to you, knowing that person, don't respond to it. Send your friend a separate email that says your email got hacked and you're sending out things all over the place. I have received from friends in the past saying my email's been hacked. Don't reply to any of these things and so on. And that's a great habit to get in, because some people, the minute they see your name, click, and they're off and running with someone they don't want to be off and running with.
Well, the other thing too is a lot of people, and I know most attorneys do this, most people in business do this, they set up their email account so they can see the subject line
Right.
first, and sometimes that'll tell you whether it's a real live email or not. But the other thing too about some of these emails that you get from companies, if you don't do business with that company, you're not going to open it. If you do
Good point.
business with that retailer, first thing I would suggest you do is go to your bills and get the phone number from the bill and put a phone call in, because most of these retailers are open 24/7 to get phone calls from customers.
Yep.
So they're the first ones to let you know whether they've sent something out or not.
Right.
And especially when you were talking about the Microsoft, it'll be on the news if there's
Oh,
a problem
guaranteed.
with Microsoft, if there's a
Guaranteed.
virus or something. So things like that, you have to be a little bit more savvy, and really it's just pure common sense
Yep.
with respect to that, and not to think that, oh, okay, I don't know enough about computers, therefore I'm sure they're telling me something I really need to know, but they're not.
Yeah. A lot of times I will get one from a bank I don't do business with. And so they're asking me to verify my information with them because they're going to shut my account off. And I say, well, have a ball, because I don't have an account with you. But some people will look at the name of the company, and because it's B of A, Bank of America, or Barclays, or whoever,
Wells Fargo, any of these
Wells
people
Fargo,
who
they
do,
click on it, and again, they're off and running. And they really never thought through the process because it was an important company. And the other thing is the home contractor and home repair scams that are going on. Be very careful when you get a call from someone who wants to repair your house, replace your windows, replace your siding, and so on and so forth. Even if you need it done, get 3 reputable people in the area that will come out, give you an estimate, and you should be golden. But the telephone calls, don't be surprised if somebody shows up the next day and are replacing your windows and you didn't even ask for it. So,
well, the other thing too is, even if they don't make a phone call, there are also circumstances where, especially in areas where there have been hurricanes or some damage, floods and all,
Right.
people will come and knock on your door and say,
That's another one.
I can fix this for you.
Right.
And the key is, or are you the owner of the house, whatever. And they always want the money up front,
Right.
and they'll be back.
yep.
And
you'll
I don't care.
never see them again.
I don't care how good a deal it is. It's never that great a deal. We all know that.
Right.
You know,
So protect yourself. This has been a short half hour. As usual, I want to thank Laurie for coming on, and I want to thank all of you for watching for the past 13 years, or roughly 13 years that we've been doing this show. And I hope you continue to watch Legalese, and I hope it continues to be informative as I hope it was in the past. Thank you for watching.